Okay, I want you to just close your eyes for a second. Imagine a time before the earth, before the sea, and before the sky. There was no Olympus. There was only chaos. And chaos wasn't just disorder or confusion like how we kind of think of the word today. No, it was a yawning void, a gaping, terrifying nothingness that is literally older than language itself.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to immerse ourselves in a really dark, sprawling, and honestly cinematic journey to map out the entire mythic cycle of Greek mythology. And look, this isn't a collection of cute bedtime stories. It's an epic, brutal tale of ambition, blood, and inescapable ruin that fundamentally shaped human history. So settle in, we're going to explore exactly how an entire cosmos was built, ruled, and eventually lost.
Right, so before we get to the legendary heroes and the terrifying monsters, we really have to talk about the curse that started the whole shebang. These were the dying words of Uranus, the very first lord of the sky. Just as I was overthrown by my son, so too shall he be overthrown by his own. This one dying curse essentially establishes this insane generational paranoia, a relentless cycle of violence that's going to haunt this divine bloodline until the absolute end of days.
Chapter 1. Out of the Void.
So the cosmos definitely wasn't formed peacefully. It was quite literally forged in agony. Gaia, who is just groaning under the weight of her monstrous children that were imprisoned by Uranus, decides she has to take vengeance. She fashions this great, jagged sickle out of unyielding flint. And out of all her children, only her youngest Titan son, Cronus, is actually brave enough to wield it. He ends up ambushing his father and violently severing his power. And from the blood that falls down into the sea foam, Aphrodite, the goddess of impossible beauty, is born. It just goes to show that in this universe, even the most radiant, breathtaking beauty stems from unspeakable, jagged violence.
After that, Cronus takes the throne, which ushers in the age of the Titans. Now these Titans, they're primal, elemental forces of nature, just vast and ancient. But that dying prophecy we talked about, it absolutely haunts Cronos, completely driving him mad to the point where he swallows his own children just to prevent his downfall. His wife Rhea, though, manages to hide their youngest, Zeus, and Zeus eventually returns to wage a grueling 10-year war. Against all odds, Zeus and his siblings, the Olympians, emerge victorious. And unlike the Titans, the Olympians are incredibly shrewd. They rule with this human-like judgment, cunning, and raw passion. They take those ancient chaotic Titans and lock them away deep, deep in the black pit of Tartarus.
Chapter 2. The Olympian Order.
Okay, so you've just conquered the entire cosmos. How on earth do you rule it without sparking yet another war? Well, you divide it. The three brothers didn't just fight for dominance, they actually cast lots. Fate itself decided their realms. Zeus takes the broad, storm-filled sky, Poseidon claims the restless, monster-filled sea, and Hades, with this really quiet resolve, takes the shadowed underworld. From the very beginning of their reign, ultimate control was governed not by brute strength alone, but by the unseen hand of fate.
But you might be wondering, what about mankind? Where do we fit in? Well, Zeus saw mortals as weak and defenseless. We had no fur, no fangs, no fire. And honestly, he wanted to keep us exactly that way. But the Titan Prometheus felt pity for us. He actually steals a flame from the forge of Hephaestus, hiding it inside a hollow fennel stalk, and gifts mankind not just warmth and civilization, but the literal spark of defiance. And for this, Zeus chains Prometheus to a mountain, where a giant eagle tears out his liver every single day. Prometheus suffered eternal, agonizing torment just to give humanity a fighting chance against the dark.
What's absolutely chilling is how this divine architecture directly forged the human experience. The poet Hesiod actually mapped our steady descent across 5 ages. We start out in the Golden Age, which was this untouched paradise during the reign of Cronus, totally free from toil. But then we fall. We fall to the Silver Age of pride, the Bronze Age of brutal war, and finally, after a very brief upward spike for the heroes, we crash straight down into the Iron Age. And the Iron Age, that is the bitter, grueling era of everyday struggle, broken bonds, and sorrow, which is exactly where we supposedly live today.
Chapter 3. The Age of Heroes. I mentioned a brief upward spike, right? That was one brilliant interlude in human history, a time when divine blood mingled with mortal wombs to create absolute legends. But these heroes weren't just your standard monster slayers. They were deeply flawed demigods, carrying the totally impossible weight of their divine lineage. Think about Perseus, navigating terrifying prophecies just to sever the head of Medusa, Or Hercules, literally driven to murder his own family by a jealous Hera, having to earn his redemption through 12 agonizing labors. Then there's Theseus, surviving the labyrinth and the Minotaur to build the very laws of Athens. And Jason, who sailed for the Golden Fleece, only to die completely alone, a broken man crushed beneath his own rotting ship. They were wrestling with divine burdens no normal human could ever carry.
And all that incredible heroic glory? It eventually culminates in one devastating conflict. The craziest part is that it begins with a single petty slight at a wedding. The goddess of discord throwing a golden apple meant for the fairest. This tiny event sparks a chain reaction. A prince chooses love over wisdom, steals Helen of Sparta, and boom. What follows is a grueling 10-year siege that literally grinds legendary heroes like Achilles and Hector into the dust. It all ends with Odysseus's deceitful wooden horse, resulting in the complete annihilation and burning of Troy. Just think about that. An entire age reduced to ashes and ruin, all over pride and a golden apple.
Chapter 4. The Web of Fate.
Now we need to transition away from the battlefields to confront the silent, terrifying architecture that governs both men and gods. This is perhaps the darkest truth of all Greek myth. Moira, the inescapable force of fate. They are three ancient sisters. One spins the thread of life, one measures it out, and Atropos cuts it. And here's the thing, even Zeus, the mighty lord of thunder, trembled before the shears of Atropos. If she raised her blade, there was literally no power in heaven that could stop her. Ultimate power didn't rest on Mount Olympus at all. It rested entirely in the hands of fate.
So, I have to ask you, if even the gods bow to fate, what hope do we have? Just consider the tragic story of Oedipus. He was told by an oracle that he would kill his father and marry his mother. Obviously, he fled his home to avoid this horrible outcome. But in doing so, he walked right into the crossroads where he killed a stranger who turned out to be his true father and solved a riddle to win a queen who was his true mother. In this world, trying to outrun your destiny only guarantees that you're going to collide with it head on.
And when that fate finally does catch up to you, where exactly do you go? To navigate the grim geography of death, you have to cross the rivers of passage, pay the ferryman your coin, and sneak past the three-headed guardian Cerberus. And after all that, usually just nothingness. Most souls simply wander the gray asphodel meadows forever, completely stripped of their earthly vanity and their voice. Only the truly, exceptionally wicked are cast down into the abyssal depths of Tartarus for eternal torture. And only the absolute greatest of heroes ever get to see the sunlit reward of Elysium. For the vast majority of people, the underworld wasn't a punishment. It was just a neutral, inevitable, and chilling shadow realm.
Chapter 5. Twilight of the Gods. So, what eventually happens to the immortals who ruled over all of this? The mighty Olympians didn't fall to swords. They didn't fall to monsters or to another race of titans. Actually, they fell to time and to philosophy. At first, they were literal, thundering deities demanding Greek worship. Then, they were adopted by the Romans and completely reshaped to fit an empire. Zeus became Jupiter, Athena became Minerva. They kind of just turned into distant political tools. Eventually, the massive rise of monotheism saw a singular, unseen god totally replace the bickering siblings of Olympus. Their altars just went cold. But they didn't vanish forever. During the Renaissance, they experienced this incredible rebirth, not as literal gods anymore, but as enduring art and metaphor.
The gods did not die. They simply moved. You see, when the temples finally crumbled and the oracles went completely silent, the Olympians just stepped off the mountain and directly into the archetypes of our own minds. We still see the agony of choice, the pain of hubris, and the thrill of risk in all our stories today. They are embedded in our psychology, our literature, and our very understanding of what it actually means to be human. Which leaves us with one final, haunting thought. If the gods never truly left us, which ones are secretly pulling the strings of your life today?